Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody, and welcome to this new Nextatlas webinar. This is the first webinar in 2023, and we dedicated to this topic, food chaos, in which, of course, we will discuss about food, but not only, because we are starting from a wider perspective. We are looking from a wider background. It's been quite tough years, the ones that were tough and interesting, the ones that we are dealing with. So we started with a pandemic 4 years ago. We have wars, we have economical crisis, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And this uncertainty, of course, has an impact on consumers in terms of anxiety. And food is, let's say, one of the ways that consumers find to cope with this bad feeling. So it's one of the ways, one of the solutions to look for comfort, to look for relief, the reassurance to be on the right side when making decision, whatever the decision may be. So I am Erich Giordano. I'm head of business development for Nextatlas, and together with me today, Debora, trainer researcher and data analyst.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
So as you know, in Nextatlas, we are a quite weird combination between data scientists and insight strategists. So we look for analytics. We analyze billions of data coming from relevant social media. But of course, we also have competencies in terms of strategy, because we always read throughout this data to find what are the implications for businesses, what are the potential opportunities and risk. The combination of these two natures makes us as a foresight scientist, and we do our analysis by leveraging the power of the early adopters. So we look only at people that has this power to detect and anticipate phenomena before they reach the mainstream. Before entering in today's webinar, just a quick note on Generate. Maybe you already heard about it because we started launching it in February. It's a new evolution of Nextatlas, a very relevant innovation, because we are starting to use generative AI and the power that is offered by generative AI on our database. So in the slide, you will find some of the example questions that you may extract, so some of the answers that you may get by looking at Nextatlas, a huge database of trends, insights, and facts through the lenses of generative AI. So you can join the waitlist by scanning the QR code. The waitlist will be closed at the beginning of April, and by mid-April, everyone will have that will have joined, will have the opportunity to test for first the beta version. And now let's enter into today's webinar. Let's speak about food cows. Debora, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Erich. Thank you for the introduction. So today's journey is divided in 3 main sections, each of which will give you a deeper understanding of the relevant shifts happening in the food industry. In the first section, the one called Mapping the Future, you get a panoramic view of the most relevant drivers and consumer behaviors that are leading us to what we call the food chaos. Next, we will take a closer look at 2 trends that are gaining more and more relevance in this scenario. The first one being playful mashups, the second one being stress-free gratification. We'll deep dive into them, providing insights, business cases, and final considerations on each one of them. And then finally, we have actually one more trend to share with you, cooking with economy. But for this webinar, we will concentrate our journey on those 2 initial trends. But this last trend, it's part of our full report that will be available for download. So make sure you get the time to check that out. Now, first, let's take a closer look at the current landscape of the food industry and chart its future trajectory. Here we've gathered all the important drivers that are changing consumers' priorities, from digital disruption to growing care for mental, physical health, to the demand for more transparent practices, the heightened concerns over waste and pollution, and even this growing sense of uncertainty that Erich was talking about. It may seem a little bit overwhelming, but it's really important to keep in mind that consumer behaviors are impacted constantly by a wide range of drivers. Some drivers may be more important and defining for some trends, while others may influence them in different ways, maybe in a less impactful way. But by understanding this wide panorama of drivers, you will gain a deeper understanding of the roots of the trends we'll be presenting today. So this understanding is also crucial in knowing what is shaping the future of food and how to navigate the shifts in the industry. Now, let's take a closer look at the impacts of those macro drivers on the food industry. We've put together different clusters of words and expressions that will bring you closer to the food industry, with the highlighted words being the driving forces behind the specific trends that we'll be discussing today. We start with food pairing, viral food, online content, which were closely positioned to indulgence, guilty pleasures. These words revolving around the emotional side of food choices were then displayed closely to gentle nutrition and mindful eating. This first group of words highlighted in purple are all about how people are approaching food and how mental well-being is having a large impact on consumers' behaviors. The spreading non-restrictive food culture is also related to the emergence of a more conscious consumerism regarding what is healthy food for your body. But it really doesn't stop there. It extends to a major focus on what can be harmful to the planet, including more attention to food waste and preservation. The group of words highlighted in blue pertains to this spreading notion of better for all in the food industry. What's good for your body, but that can actually be good for the surrounding as well. And the final group of words, of expressions that we highlighted, this time in green, is closely related to the debate on food waste and preservation, but it also really extends all the way to this growing debate on how the economic crisis will impact food behaviors and choices. Having those drivers and their impacts on the food industry in mind, we have identified 3 relevant trends that are emerging and rapidly spreading among consumers: play food mashups, stress-free gratification, and cooking with economy. As I anticipated in the beginning of the webinar, we'll be deep diving into the 2 first trends, but you always can find out more about the last one on our full report. Now, with no further ado, let's have a look at the first trend, the one that we called playful mashups. Now, this is a trend that talks about how strict limitations in food culture, they are becoming actually less significant. This trend is related to that first word cloud highlighting the mental well-being and non-restrictive food approaches that we saw earlier. This trend is further amplified by the popularity of food-centric social media and online content, which kind of spreads this unique food creations to a wider audience. What we predict based on the data collected on the Nextatlas platform is that consumers will keep looking for a sort of comfort in food, but a comfort that kind of goes beyond consolation. Consumers will increasingly see food as a source of playfulness, creative freedom, something that can liberate them, that bring them joy. As our platform shows, the popularity of the concept flavor combinations has grown about 110% in this first months of 2023 compared to the previous years. And there are three main considerations for this trend. First, experimenting as much as possible at all levels, which for brands in specific definitely means going beyond its core business and potentially forming partnerships and collaborations. Second, combining flavors, ingredients, cooking styles, and cuisines beyond traditional recipes. And third, associating food and cooking with emotions like joy, humor, and positivity. So throughout this webinar, we will be exploring these two trends and their corresponding insights to action. These insights will provide different perspectives on each trend, making it easier for you to understand their real-world applications. We've divided these insights in 4 categories: product inspiration, brand activations, packaging, and communication strategies. To help you navigate through the presentation, you'll see these little icons next to the titles in the upper corner of each slide. Now, let me break down the playful mashup trend to you. The first insight to action relates to this need of experimenting with different combinations of flavors, ingredients, cooking styles, and cuisines, kind of to satisfy this hunger for novelty. And that is the key for this insight to action. This phenomenon is driven by this desire to constantly seek out new and exciting food experiences. As I mentioned earlier in this webinar, the popularity of playful mashups is amplified by food-centric online content. According to our data, mentions of the concept modern twists on social media have grown by approximately 116% year over year. So to differentiate your brand for competitors, it is increasingly important to offer new and unique twists on traditional dishes. And the data shows that flavor, it's a key tag that emerges for this insight next to combination, classic, inspired. And that reveals a lot about how consumers are looking for new flavors that can provide different and potentially unexpected experiences. Snacking, aperitif, and brunch are the top occasions for this insight. So the takeaway here is that brands should really focus on exploring unique food twists for this in-between meal moments. That is a very, very fertile moment of the day that brands could be exploring for these unique twists. This first case study showcases how brands are leveraging mashups to experiment, collaborate, and actually really show their creative and playful side to consumers. So Starbucks has introduced a new line of drinks called Oleato, which combines their coffee with Protana extra virgin olive oil. This is a perfect example of taking two very conventional ingredients with really distinct characteristics and merging them to provide a unique flavor and texture experience. It might seem a little bit unusual at first, but this is interesting enough to capture the attention of consumers. Now let's talk about brand activation. According to our data, the tag multi-purpose is becoming increasingly popular in the food and beverage industry. This reflects a growing interest in ingredients that are versatile enough to be used in a variety of recipes and food combinations. Other related tags that emerge for this insight to action include easy, simple, time. Consumers are seeking maximum reward with minimum effort, making convenience a key factor in their purchasing decisions. Snacking is the primary occasion for exploring versatility in the kitchen. So for this particular insight, that would be the best territory to be explored. Wait, so then you can ask me, right? What if your product is not naturally versatile? Then consider making it versatile, or at the very least, promoted as a versatile ingredient that can easily blend with other foods. Cheetos is a great example of that. As part of its Cooking with Cheetos campaign, the brand has launched its first ever cooking gadget, the Cheetos Duster. Cheeto, the brand's cheese dust, that's how they called it, has already been incorporated into dishes by many fans and be shared on social media channels. So the brand really saw an opportunity there, and they partnered with Amazon to offer a dedicated recipe page featuring over a dozen savory recipes and sweet treats ideas. So this could be a very nice way to promote something that maybe doesn't feel like a very versatile by its nature, but you promote it as a versatile ingredient. When it comes to communication strategies, it's important to note that using whimsical ads and branding can be an effective way to engage with consumers. In fact, the popularity of the word humorous in food and beverage industry has increased by over 40% year over year. This insight to action has a strong appeal to younger generation, but it's worth noting that it can also attract a wide range of consumers of different ages. Now, Heinzola is a great example of how brands are pushing the boundaries of traditional recipes and flavors. Heinz conducted a global survey to determine whether ketchup on pizza was acceptable, despite it being viewed as a sacrilege by pizza traditionalists. Over 60% of the people who were surveyed approved the combination. So the company saw the opinion of Neapolitans, known for their expertise in pizza making. And they asked them to try the pizza with Heinzola. So Heinz released this playful ad. It's very lighthearted, and they also launched these banners where they were actually apologizing to Italy. So this lighthearted tone is so important. They also shared the recipe for Heinzola on social media, allowing and inviting consumers to make their dishes at home. And this case shows how a humorous communication strategy can be effective in adding this playful tone and making it more acceptable to experiment with traditional recipes. To conclude the playful mashups trend, here's some key takeaways. For product, expanding the boundaries of food offerings is a way to stand out. And really, don't be afraid to find this sweet spot between weird and playful, because consumers today, they are really open to trying new products. With the right brand activation and the communication strategy, you can definitely make your mark in the market. So let's talk about brand activation. Positioning versatility as an expertise is key. Consider how you can turn your product into an ingredient that can be paired with others and be blended in different recipes. Build your brand image as a versatile one that can go along with any meal or occasion. And for communication, incorporate the funny, weird approach in your strategies, so that you can create enough buzz without being too strange, without being repelling. So finally, it's important to fully embrace the mantra, no rules, just right. Now let's move on to the second trend, stress-free gratification. This is a trend that has emerged due to the increasing focus on conscious consumerism, with consumers seeking food choices that are beneficial for their bodies and for the environment. This trend is all about the concept of better for all in the food industry. Texts such as gentle and nutrition on social media channels have seen a 32% year-over-year increase in popularity. However, the burden of having all these concerns can be very, very overwhelming, right? So that's why consumers will increasingly rely on brands that can provide a sense of guilt-free satisfaction without really causing too much stress to them. There are three key ideas to remember for this trend. Firstly, healthy eating doesn't have to mean depriving oneself of pleasure and satisfaction in meals. It is important to find a balance between health and gratification. Secondly, the concept of gratification itself should extend to the planet as well. Food choices should be sustainable and benefit both the individual and the environment. Lastly, not everything is perfect, so it is essential to have food alternatives that provide a sense of stress-free gratification to consumers. When discussing product categories, an important phenomenon to consider is the spread of eco-anxiety among consumers. Eco-anxiety is a chronic fear of environmental catastrophe. And when you look at the related text for the inside, you see that you see fear and mental health, which highlights the psychological burden that consumers feel about their potential impact on the planet. Brands that can address this need will likely thrive. Eco-consciousness is at the top of the list of the most important target values for and then it's followed by experimenters and civil rights activists. Experimenters are particularly important to consider because this data point indicates that consumers are really more open to try new alternatives to obtain the food they desire without harming the planet. Over the past years, numerous startups have emerged to address the use of unsustainable ingredients, and we've seen cocoa-free chocolate, peanut-free peanut butter, and even beanless coffee, which is what we're seeing right now. But a recent and noteworthy brand case is Minus Coffee. The company uses fermentation to produce a coffee-like blend without the need for growing, processing, roasting, or brewing beans. What's particularly interesting in this case is that the company employs upcycled ingredients such as chicory roots, date seeds, and lentils to create the product. The team studied the coffee microbiome from different parts of the world to comprehend growing conditions and develop flavors. In this case, the upcycling practice is really essential. It removes all the doubts, any doubt about alternative ingredients and practices, and it focuses on finding the right flavor by using discarded food in a manner that produces a product of equal or higher value than the original. Moving to packaging, the key takeaway lies in how much burden brands can take away from consumers when they're purchasing. Mentions of easy and labels have been growing year over year, indicating a growing need for this easy to understand labeling. This insight to action here sheds light on two very important topics among consumers besides sustainability: nutrition and allergies. Food packaging that highlights this information in a very simple, transparent way is set to thrive. This need for easy labeling, it's particularly important for millennials and Gen Xers. A good example of this insight to action is Magic Spoon cereal bars, a New York-based company. The bars are grain-free. They only have 1 gram of sugar, 10 grams of protein, and 3 grams of net carbons. And no, I haven't memorized all the nutrition information. It's just written there. I'm just reading it. This is the type of straightforward display of food nutritional qualities that should be in your mind. This is what could alleviate some of the burden consumers may feel when they are grocery shopping. Now, when it comes to communication strategies, brands should transmit a sense of reassurance in their campaigns. In fact, interest in clean ingredients has increased over the years, indicating a growing attention to what is being consumed. Overall, consumers are seeking products and services that they feel are protected and safe when they're buying. And it's essential for brands to convey a sense of reliability to gain consumer trust. The data reveals that experimenters are at the top of the target values, indicating that consumers are more open to experimenting with new, even unconventional products if they are confident that their health will be safeguarded. A recent brand case that kind of communicates really well this sense of reassurance in their marketing strategies is Milliways. Milliways, it's a plant-based and plastic-free chewing gum brand that they actually recently launched an advertising campaign titled Life in Plastic. In the advertisement, we observe this man who's living in this world entirely made of plastic. He wakes up, he chews his plastic gum, wears his plastic clothing, and then prepares plastic food for his upcoming date. Ultimately, his date turns out to be also a plastic mannequin. So the advert, which has been rolled out in different social media channels, ends up with this very strong statement. It says, some things shouldn't be made of plastic, like your chewing gum. So the campaign really aims to raise awareness about these negative effects of plastic and promote an eco-friendly alternative to consumers. We now have enough insights and case studies to kind of wrap up the stress-free gratification trend. Here are some key takeaways. First one, in terms of product innovation, consider the concept of reverse food engineering. Find the same flavors and textures while you're using environmentally friendly practices and ingredients. I know this is a challenge, but this is the direction product innovation should be taking in the food industry. When it comes to packaging, keep it simple and concise. Make the information easy to understand so that consumers don't need to spend much cognitive effort. The goal should be they read it, they comprehend it, and they purchase it quickly. The last one for communication strategies, present pleasure as a synonym of guilt-free gratification. These two ideas should not be mutually exclusive, but rather they should be two sides of the same coin. Finally, the ultimate tip for this session is to associate your brand with no anxiety, just delicious products. And with these final considerations, we're reaching the final moments of this webinar. I do hope you enjoyed the content that our team put together for Food Chaos. Now I'll be handling back to Erich.
Hi, Debora, thank you very much. Okay, before we enter into the Q&A session, just a quick reminder of what you can do. There are a couple of things. First of all, you can get the full report by going at this, scanning this QR code. The report is free for all Nextatlas subscriber. And also we remind you again to click on the other QR code and go to and join the waitlist of our incoming services generate. So let's start with a question. We have already a few ones. The first one is coming from John Carlos, which is asking, do you consider other forces such as growing population, etc., within the drivers? Yeah, of course we do. We don't do it, let's say, from a statistical perspective. So we don't start by looking at statistics, for example, in relation to population change and then determine which are the trends that are popping up in relation to this driver. We do the opposite. So our artificial intelligence is always scanning for new weak signals. And this is the way that we use looking at social media, more than 300,000 profiles at global level, and looking at what they do, those early adopters, to look at what they are publishing and detecting emerging signals. This can be very weak, they can be very specific, but there's also a way from our artificial intelligence to cluster them together in bigger topics. And then, of course, to come to the drivers, all these signals, both the micro ones and the macro ones, are supervised and validated by the insight team, who's inside the team that is the Debora's team, and this team so has the role of checking everything that is coming up from this ongoing analysis, validated, and in some cases also to read through the data and provide more implication for the brands that are using Nextatlas data. Another question that is coming from Jade, how can we reframe the better for you approach in food and beverage, considering those two trends? Maybe Debora, you can answer to that.
How we can reframe the better for you approach, right? Because we were talking about pleasure, playfulness, a good way maybe to reframe that is to focus on offering food and beverages that are not only healthy, but maybe they also have a pleasurable and indulgent side to them. Basically, it means that instead of simply emphasizing the health benefits of a product, brands can also kind of highlight the sensory experiences that they, the enjoyment that kind of comes with consuming the brand. So when they do that, things that consumers, they probably, they might likely be more adapt to get to the desirable life choice, which should be the healthy one. The thing about the stress-free gratification that we were talking about, it's how you can actually sell your products without making them feel that so bad about the environment, but also about their health as well. So probably the best way is also always to find the balance between really healthy, which is the better for you, but never forget that enjoyable side of food, because they will keep looking for guilt-free, pleasurable moments.
Thank you very much, Debora. Final question from Stefano. Are these trends efficiently applicable to all countries? For example, Italy, or only to the US? Well, actually, they are applicable in very different geographies, because the data that we are collecting are coming from different countries and regions. So let's say that the main areas we are gathering information from are North America, Europe, Far East, so countries such as Japan, Korea, or Southeast Asia, and Middle East. Also, it's a relevant geographical area in our among our sources. So for all the phenomena, we measure not only their impact global level, but also the impact country level. So it's something that definitely is applicable in some cases, also with very deep data in relation to geography. So we still have a few questions, but since time is running short, we will answer to the remaining ones by email directly. Of course, you will all receive the link to the webinar recording, the link to download the report and to join the waitlist of Nextatlas Generator. For any other question or information, of course, you can always get in touch with us and contact directly into our website or by email, or as you prefer. So thank you very much for your attention and for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a good day.